What does it take to become a college basketball legend? Well, first, you got to get buckets. I think that's pretty undisputed. I think second, you got to be competitive, have that fire to drive your teammates, right? Third, but certainly not least, you got to win. And you got to win a lot, right? Nobody embodied those qualities more than Diana Taurasi.
ESPN just disrespected the greatest scorer in college basketball history, and no one's letting it slide. Caitlin Clark dropped nearly 4,000 points, broke records that stood for decades, carried a non-P powerhouse school to national stardom, and completely transformed the WNBA's popularity in her rookie year. But when ESPN dropped their top 5 women's college players ever list, Clark's name was nowhere to be found, like not even a pity spot.
We want to hear from you guys at home, though, in YouTube. Give us a hit in the comments. Look, it's incredibly challenging to pick the 5, but obviously when you make these top 5 lists, somebody inevitably gets left off. Who do you have the biggest gripe with getting left off?
Meanwhile, Cheryl Miller, who did make the list, came to Clark's defense harder than anyone, calling out critics' media bias and even using the word despise to describe how Clark's being treated. This isn't just about stats or snubs, this is about race rivalry and the uncomfortable truth behind women's basketball's biggest breakout star. So what's really going on here? Is Caitlin Clark being punished for being too good, too popular, or too white in a black-dominated league? Why are some legends praising her like the next coming of Steph Curry, while others act like she's a glitch in the Matrix? And how did Patrick Beverley end up calling her a gangster on camera? Oh, we're digging all the way in, but before we break down the ESPN snub, the Cheryl Miller MIC drop, and the deeper layers behind Clark's rise and resistance, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. This is the WNBA deep dive they don't want you to see. Let's go. Nope, not a joke, this actually happened. Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever's breakout superstar, has just been snubbed by ESPN. The same Caitlin Clark who rewrote record books with a jaw-dropping 3,951 points and 1,144 assists at Iowa apparently isn't top 5 material according to ESPN's latest all-time ranking. And oh, that list, will get to it, but let's just say it's not sitting well with FF players or legends. But trust me, this isn't just about a ranking, because behind that snub lies a bigger storm: race rivalries, media narratives, and one absolute legend who's not holding back anymore. We're talking Cheryl Miller, Time Magazine, Patrick Beverley, and a whole lot of people weighing in on whether Caitlin Clark is despised just for being great. So why was she snubbed? Clark didn't just score, she rewrote the NCAA history books. She holds the all-time scoring record across men's and women's basketball. She wasn't surrounded by 5-star recruits. This wasn't UConn or Tennessee, this was Iowa. Good team, but far from stacked, and still she carried them to national championship level relevance. And then ESPN drops a list, the top 5 women's college players of all time. Caitlin Clark not on it. Instead they list Breanna Stewart. No surprise there, 4 national titles with UConn and 4 Final Four mops. Hard to argue. Then Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, all UConn or Tennessee legends. And rounding it out, Cheryl Miller, the USC juggernaut who owned the 80s, winning 3 Naismith Player of the Year awards and 2 national titles. Okay, those are legends, but how does Clark not crack that top 5? She literally changed the game. Even ESPN had to toss her into the just missed category alongside Brittany Griner, Kelsey Plum, Shemi Holdsclaw, and Lynette Woodard. It didn't take long before the internet exploded. Fans were fuming, analysts were scratching their heads. Was this just another clickbait move by ESPN, or was there something deeper? One person who definitely isn't staying quiet: Cheryl Miller. Yep, the Cheryl Miller, and ironically she was one of the 5 who made ESPN's list, but even she couldn't believe what was happening to Caitlin Clark.
I'm going to be honest, because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and hated because of my color. Yeah. I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. Mm-hmm. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason. Mm-hmm. And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. Mm-hmm. And I was pleased and proud to see the narrative wasn't the truth. Mm-hmm.
All the smoke podcast. Miller went off. She called out the critics hard, labeling them big dummies, and then she dropped something no one expected. I felt for her. Miller said, "I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and be hated because of my color. I can't imagine this young lady. I don't want to use hate, but despised." That word stopped the internet cold, because Cheryl Miller wasn't just defending Clark's stats, she was peeling back something raw, something Few people want to talk about publicly race and resentment in women's basketball. Here's where it gets really tense. Caitlin Clark is white, most of the WNBA is black, and as Clark's popularity exploded, so did conversations about why she was getting all this attention. Washington Mystics co-owner Sheila Johnson didn't hold back either. In an interview with CNN, she said she'd seen so many players of color that are equally as talented and they never got the recognition they should have, and then came the Time magazine cover. Clark was named 2024's Athlete of the Year, not just in basketball, in all of sports. Was it deserved? Her rookie season in the WNBA says yes. She averaged 19, 2 points, 8, 4 assists and 5.7 rebounds per game. She shattered the rookie scoring record, broke the single-season assist record, made the All-Star team, finished 4th in MVP voting. That's rookie numbers. Get some voices inside the league said no. Even WNBA legends Cheryl Swoops took issue with Clark's Time cover, arguing it should have gone to the entire WNBA. You're starting to see the pattern here, right? Caitlin Clark was being questioned not because she wasn't performing, but because her success was sparking resentment, and race was undeniably part of the equation. Even WNBA Commissioner Kathy Angelbert chimed in on CNBC. She made a comparison that raised eyebrows across the sports world. It is a little of that Larry Bird Magic Johnson moment. Angelbert said 2 rookies came in from a big college rivalry, one white, one black, and so we have that moment with these two. She was talking about Clark and Angel Ree, and suddenly the rivalry that fans loved didn't feel so innocent anymore. So how did this rivalry even start? Back in college, Clark and Angel Ree went head-to-head in one of the most watched women's basketball games ever. The media loved it. One was the fire-shooting white girl from Iowa, the other a fierce, unapologetic black star from LSU. The contrast was easy to sell, and the media did what it always does: they spun a narrative. But Cheryl Miller, she's not buying it. She brought some on herself. Miller said of Clark, she's cocky for a good reason, but the media had their narrative, and I was pleased and proud to see that the narrative wasn't the truth. Miller had coached both Reese and Clark during the 2024 WNBA All-Star Game. She saw them interact, and according to her, the supposed feud completely overblown. Angel and her got along so well, Miller said, so the tension the media hyped up just more fuel for the clicks. Meanwhile, real relationships were being ignored, and Clark was left to take the heat, sometimes literally on and off the court. Alright, let's switch gears for a second, because if you're thinking this is just a media thing or a WNBA problem, former NBA player Patrick Beverley is here to blow that up. He saw Caitlin Clark in action in person. He was working out on one side of a gym, she was on the other, and Beverley, he couldn't believe what he saw. She can shoot the sword out of it, he said. I'm looking at her shoot it, and she's one of those shooters where it's like, damn bro, why'd you throw that pass? Bad, give me the ball to my chest. I'm like, oh, she's a gangster. Also from Beverley, that's high praise. He's not the type to hand out compliments, but Caitlin Clark, she earned his respect. The way she demanded precision, the way she moved, the way she treated every rep like a playoff game. She didn't just belong, she owned it. Here's the real question: why is a player who checks every box, performance records, leadership, popularity, still under this much scrutiny? It's not just about being white in a black-dominated league. It's not just about being flashy or confident. It's about how narratives get built and who controls them. Cheryl Miller gets it. She lived it. She knows what it's like to be judged before being understood, and she's not about to let Caitlin Clark become a casualty of a media machine hungry for division. You're getting paid now, Miller said of today's players. Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat, but what happens when the room still isn't ready for you? That's where Caitlin Clark is right now, loved by millions, respected by legends, snubbed by the establishment, and depending on who you ask, maybe even despised. The question isn't whether she belongs in the top 5, that's already been answered on the court. The real question is how many people are brave enough to admit it. Caitlin Clark's snub by ESPN isn't just about a ranking, it shows how hard it can be for some players to get the recognition they deserve. With nearly 4,000 points and over 1,000 assists, her stats are incredible, but this situation reveals how stories in the media can sometimes overshadow real talent. Cheryl Miller's support for Clark points out an important issue: success in sports is not only about numbers but also about how people see those achievements. Many fans are starting to notice that some players, especially those who don't fit the typical image, face more criticism than others. This isn't just about Clark being a great player, it's about how society deals with success that challenges old ideas. Is the rivalry with Angel Reese has been blown out of proportion, but we should appreciate what both players bring to the game. Patrick Beverley's compliments for Clark show that real talent can shine through any bias. Whether you think Caitlin Clark's getting too much love or not enough, the numbers don't lie. She's doing things the game has never seen, so if she's still being snubbed, you've got to ask what's really going on. Is this about basketball, or is it about who gets to be the face of it? All right, real talk, did ESPN get it dead wrong on Caitlin Clark, or are we all just overhyping her? Is this just a case of media bias, or do you think there's more to the story? How do you feel about the way race plays into the recognition of athletes in the WNBA? And here's a spicy one: was leaving Clark off that list just a bad take or a strategic move to stir the pot? Also, do you believe rivalries like Clark and Reese's help or hurt women's basketball? And what do you think needs to change in the sports media landscape to ensure all players get the respect they deserve? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm eager to hear your perspectives, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more real talk on the WNBA. Trust me, this season is just heating up and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Catch you all later.